Welcome to Unbreakably Bold. I'm your host, Christina Delgado. This podcast is for anyone who is ready to step into their power, stop doubting their abilities, and begin to live their life in alignment. On this podcast, we will talk all things mindset, relationships, personal development, confidence, and so much more. I'm here to foster intentional conversations, drop some knowledge, and learn alongside you all with the aim of showing up as empowered and unbreakably bold every single day. No matter where you are on your journey of doing the work, this podcast is guaranteed to make you feel less alone. Let's get into it, shall we? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unbreakably Bold. It's your girl, Christina Delgado, here with a very special guest. My special guest today is Devin Granitz. Devin, say hi.
Hello.
So let me take you guys back a little bit. I met Devin... I actually don't even know when I met you. I think was it high school?
Some point in high school.
Yeah.
This is like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I want to make everybody sad.
Yeah, we were probably like 16, 17 when we met.
Yeah, probably like junior year.
Or like
whatever that was.
26, 27.
I'm 27.
Yeah, 26, 27 now. But anyways, we met, and I think we might have met in history class because I do remember Coach Sherrick's class. You were cracking me up. That's where we really bonded. Do you remember?
That a couple classes we had. I remember.
Yeah, but that's the main one I remember for some reason.
And a lit class at the end that you don't seem to remember at all, which I'm offended by.
Oh my gosh, I actually think that I do. I think I do. We had it with...
It was like, I just remember having a fucking little laptop in there every day.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I took selfies on it.
Anyways,
so that is how I met Devin, and the reason that I am having him on Unbreakably Bold today is because he's going to share his story about cutting off toxic family members or a toxic family member. And really, I have seen so much growth in Devin since when I knew him in high school to where we are at today. We've become a lot closer. Now he's not just my friend in history class. I've learned a lot about him, and I've learned a lot about his journey, and I've seen, physically have been able to see the true growth in you from where you were to where you are now. I think I've seen you in some pretty fucking tragic situations before, and... just to see somebody who went through all that shit and come out as just the beautiful person that you are today, I'm so grateful for that experience. And I just think that you're about to drop some knowledge and really share your experience with us. And I hope that people can really take something away and resonate with it.
I think so too. And you can't see right now because you're listening, but I'm tearing up so hard because of all the amazingly sweet things Tina just said about me.
I'm pretty sure I tell you this at least every time we hang out. So
I love it.
I don't know how we have tears, but so that's a little bit about him, and let's go ahead and get into the episode.
Sounds good.
So this is a very important topic that I want to talk about today, and I thought that Devin would be a great guest for it. He has the experience of cutting off a toxic family member, and I personally have been in a situation where I have contemplated if this is something that I should be doing in my life, and I felt like we could all use some more clarity around it and just hear what it looked like for him. So Devin, thank you for sharing with us today and for being here and for being vulnerable, because shit's about to get real.
I'm making my dreams come true being on this podcast. This is all I ever wanted.
Yes. So I think the first thing that I want to talk about is what really makes a toxic person. I feel like today with cancel culture and just the way that our world is, so many people are so quick to call somebody toxic when they might not necessarily be. So in your experience, what would you say would be signs of toxicity in a person?
I don't think, I think it's more of like a description of them than just kind of using words to identify them. I feel like if you use words to identify someone as toxic, people can just kind of use it for everything. If you say oh, they did this or they did that, they can somehow make a connection to their person that they're trying to and just make them into somebody toxic when in reality it's not.
Right.
So I think that someone being toxic in your life is having a real effect on your mental health. You have issues, you've changed as a person because of this, that's toxic to me. And they're affecting it so bad negatively that it's just you're you're thinking different.
Yeah, I think that's good. Do you have any prime examples? Like, when I think of somebody that's toxic, I think of somebody who like manipulates you and gaslights you constantly, makes you second guess your reality and who you are and just what has happened in situations. That's a huge sign of toxicity to me.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, things like that, right? It's also, it's who they are as a person. I wouldn't say it's acts. So it's like things like you're saying right now, like constantly saying bad things to like other family members behind your back, or saying it to people, you know, you're hearing things of what they're saying about you, things like this, right? Like kind of like what you said on the lines of gaslighting, how maybe something will happen and all of a sudden you hear from like a family member something completely different.
Yeah.
Right? They're just blaming you for everything, things like that, making you out to be that person.
Yeah, definitely. So I know a little bit about your story, but I'm really excited to dive in and hear it all today. So I'm going to let you take it away and just share your experience with us.
So, yeah, did you mention that it was my mom?
I don't remember.
Well, everybody out there, it was my mom. So that made it pretty tough. And it actually happened fairly recently where I completely cut her off. It was like during like peak COVID times last year. All my other, like my siblings, so my brother and my sister, they completely cut her off for years now. So I was kind of late to that. I feel like it was just like, just being my mom kind of held me back on that. And it was more worrying about how she would turn out, knowing that everybody's kind of cutting her off. So it was more of like, okay, well, I don't want, like, it's either like me cut her off and like she dies alone, as sad as that sounds, but that's just the reality of it, or me sticking around for her benefit but damaging pretty much every other relationship I have. So after a few things that happened last year, then it was just, I just realized that the more clear decision to better myself and everybody else's, like basically everybody else around me's life, I had to do it.
So when did you realize that your mom was negatively impacting your life? Like, tell me the age, give me that, like,
Gotcha.
Head game.
Well, this was a long time. This was probably like, so as soon as I moved to Woodstock, probably. So that was probably like 2008.
Okay.
I'm assuming. So soon after that, because she basically conditioned me and my siblings to think that my dad was like a terrible human being. So my dad, so I grew up in Brazil. He was basically gone traveling 5 days out of the week. And then when they would come back over the weekend, they would just be fighting the whole time. So it was like at a point where even now I remember when they were like getting along, and it was just so rare. Like I can still remember in my mind, like times where they're actually like getting along with each other.
Yeah.
So it was just constant fighting the whole time. And after they would fight, it was basically my mom coming up to us and just telling us how terrible he was and how awful he was. And she was telling us that she was going to divorce my dad for probably like 5-6 years before it actually happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the thing with my dad is, while this was all going on, he would never say anything negative about my mom. He would just tell me, Devin, when you get older, you'll understand. That's all he would say.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say anything else. And it got to that point where I got older, my dad was gone, and now it's just like me, my siblings in the house with my mom, and we all started kind of like individually, like one at a time, realizing what was going on. My sister being the oldest first, so her kind of figuring it out earlier, and then like me and my brother kind of at the same time. So it was just like alcoholism, drug abuse, just some from therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists that I've talked to over the years. They all kind of agree on the same thing, that it sounds like some type of undiagnosed personality disorder. Everybody's against her. Everybody's wrong. No matter how long of a time she has to kind of think about it, it won't change her mind.
Right.
You can talk to her about it, try to talk calmly about it. It'll somehow turn around on you. So that's basically how it was. And then it got really bad with me and my brother before I just had to get out of there. And I ended up just calling my dad and being like, hey, like I gotta move out of here. And that's when I moved to Washington, stayed there for a couple of years and then came back.
Okay. So tell us your family. So you have a younger brother.
Yes.
Older sister.
Yes.
Mom, dad. Are there any other siblings or anything?
Step siblings now.
Step siblings now.
So
okay.
My dad's current wife.
Okay. So what were some of the things that she was doing that made you realize like you didn't want her in your life anymore?
Yeah, so once I got old enough to kind of realize it, because I've been conditioned since I was a kid to think she was great, right? I thought, my dad's terrible, because basically what she would do when they would fight is it would be super, like, private until my dad would lose his temper. So my dad would lose his temper.
Okay.
That's all I would see.
And then that's all you look at.
And then I hear my mom afterwards talking about how terrible and what happened from her point of view, which really wasn't the true point of view. You know, that wasn't really what happened.
Yeah.
So I would be seeing my dad lose his temper. So I remember like hitting his legs, like punching his legs, like trying to like defend my mom type thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like just from him losing his temper. Like, so over time again, and then again, like he would just be like, hey, just, you know, when I would talk to him, and I held the resentment for my dad like forever until, you know, they got divorced and I came to Woodstock. Even after that, it was years later until that happened. When I really got to spend time with him is when I realized that my mom was terrible, is when everything kind of started piecing together. Like my brain started to change a little bit. I'm like, okay, I understand this a lot better, because she did the same thing with me. Basically, any fights in the house, she would go like crazy and I would be calm the whole time. As soon as she said something that kind of like, you know, like flip my switch and I would like lose it and like yell or something like that, she would have that to hold against me the next day as a reason why I should apologize. So it got like crazy. And when I say like craziness, I mean like screaming, calling us like basically human, like demons. Like we have demons in us. The devil is possessed us, like screaming at the top of her lungs, like almost like unbearable screams. And then she would like go to her room. For example, if we're at our house, we got in an argument with my brother, like me and my brother against her, go to her door, and then we'd be like knocking on her door, like trying to talk to her, and she would be on the phone with other people, like family members, telling that we're like being crazy and stuff, and we'd be just knocking on the door to talk, and she'd be like, they're trying to break in my door, like freaking
like
out,
heightened every
like
single
screaming
situation.
on the phone, like she's afraid for her life when we're just knocking, like stop, like come out and talk to us like normal. She would be freaking out. Me and my brother would look at each other like, what is going on right now? There would be times where she would say that she was about to kill herself, so she would threaten to kill herself. She would go in her room, lock her bedroom door, and then it was like a master bedroom, so there's like a bathroom in there, lock the bathroom door, and then when we would knock to try to see if she was okay, she wouldn't respond.
Yeah.
So me and my brother like break in the door, and then we would go up to the bathroom door, and we would like finally get through that one, and she'd be standing there, and she's like, what are you guys thinking? What are you guys doing right now? You guys really just breaking my door? And we're like, you just threatened that you're going to kill yourself, and then you stop responding. So
what do you expect?
Exactly. And like the drinking issue and everything, I realized once I started drinking, because I'm like, okay, a 10-ounce glass of vodka with a little splash of lemon juice is not a normal amount of alcohol for people to drink.
Yeah.
So I started seeing that. So it would just basically be her getting home from work every night, picking a fight, and then turning into something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Call the cops on me, things like that before.
So I think that's a great thing. Like another sign of somebody who is toxic is somebody who victimizes.
Yeah. Like
they're always the victim and they always turn a situation back on you, which also makes you then feel gaslighted because you're questioning your reality.
Exactly. No, gaslighting 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, victimizing as well. So if you guys are like seeing that at all in your life, like that might be something to hone in on and pay attention to.
Yeah. Also just be like, I mean, if somebody's acting like that, just realize that it's a mental health issue.
Right.
That's not normal for someone to be. If somebody's acting crazy regularly or like refusing to take responsibility for anything at all, blaming everybody around them for everything, it's a type of mental health issue at that point.
And so did you and your siblings ever sit down with your mom and communicate and be like, hey, this is what we're seeing, and give her a chance to like tell her side, or just like communicate? Did you put up boundaries? Like take me through communication aspects with your mom when you would see this frightening behavior. There
was no communication. Like when I was talking about like knocking on the door and wanting to talk to her, that was basically the result of trying to do that.
So what would happen after that?
There was no talking. There was no reasoning with her. It would just be a complete refusal to do so and just blaming us for everything. Like she would be demanding an apology, and so she would turn off our phones, take away the Wi-Fi router.
So she would withhold things.
We didn't get
it
back until we apologized and admit that we did something. So we would go in there just like pissed off, like not wanting to at all, just having to apologize so we could just get on. There would be times where like I didn't have a car. She would be taking me to work in the morning, and she would just start fighting with me out of nowhere, just picking fights until like we got in an argument, and then she would turn around, start taking me home, not taking me to work, and she would demand an apology for her to turn around and get me to work on time. So like it was that type of just abusing her control so much to keep us under control, basically.
Yeah. Wow. What age were you when you decided like enough is enough? And I want to know how you handled that situation. Like, did you ghost her? Did you communicate, or no, because it wasn't worth it? Well,
there's 2 times. Like I tried to cut her off multiple times. So the time where I first cut her off, where I moved out of Georgia, she called the cops on me cops showed up, like multiple cops showed up. She started telling them I had drugs. I had no drugs in the house. They went upstairs, searched everything, searched the house, didn't find anything. And she kept telling him that I did. They're somewhere. And it got to a point where I had like a recording of earlier that night of my mom, and I showed the cop, and he was like, does she take any medication or anything like that? Like he knew just seeing off of that.
Yeah.
He immediately asked me if I had anywhere to stay, and no, but that was like the first part of it. And then she kept locking me out of the house. So every time I had to use a ladder to get to the second story to go through a window to get into my own house.
Oh, wow.
She would lock me out, change the code on the garage and everything, and just leave. So that's when I was like, okay. And at this point I didn't have a phone because she canceled my phone. She would take the Wi-Fi router with her when she would leave for work, so I couldn't like go on Wi-Fi texting to try to reach out. And all this started because she knew I was reaching out to my dad to try to get out of there. So me and my brother would go to this little cul-de-sac with a basketball hoop that we just shoot around at, and we would use somebody's Wi-Fi at a house there that just didn't have it secured to like text that's the way that we communicated. So I left there. Thankfully, I had friends that I could stay with until I moved to Washington with my dad. And then I came back and I kind of like started connecting with her again. Mm-hmm. So I was living with a friend, and then I went back to her place and stayed there for a little bit until I got my own place. And then once I did that, we kind of kept in contact still. It basically continued for years, and I always thought, because there were still those same issues like popping up, but I wasn't with her as much. So it wasn't as difficult to deal with. So I was like, okay, I can somewhat deal with this. And then getting married is when everything kind of started, like, or at least getting engaged is when everything started. So I started realizing the effect on Nicole building relationships with my sister and my other parts of my family, and she would see this stuff on social media and just be terrible about it. So it got to a point where we had to sit down and see, like, Nicole asked me, she was like, hey, are you going to invite your mom? And then that's when I really had to think about it.
Out of like fear that
100%.
Something, yeah.
Because my dad was going to be there, my brother and sister that cut her off years ago, that she still talked about constantly, of how much she was upset at them and she was the best mom ever and I can't believe they did this type stuff. So everybody would be there. And like, just knowing my mom, there's no way that she would hold her tongue or like not make dirty looks, and it was just a stress we didn't need. So I was kind of holding off for a bit. I didn't want to tell her. I want to figure out how to do it because I knew that there's no reasoning with her, so it's going to have to be the right situation. And my sister gave my fiance now, which is Nicole, by the way, a book, and she like posted it on like an Instagram story. And my mom doesn't even follow her or anything, so it was like she randomly somehow is like stalking the pages, and she saw this. She made a comment, oh, so Brittany and Nicole, blah blah blah, just like some bad comment. And I knew it. I was like, okay, she can't even handle my sister giving my fiance a book. Like, she's
like,
not going to be
kind of like she was jealous of the relationship.
Yeah, she like talking
comment?
Shit type thing. Okay. Like, she was like talking bad about, oh, like really they're going to be like close like that. Like yeah. it didn't make any sense, but that's just how my mom is. Clearly. Exactly. So at that point I just told her straight up. I was like, hey, no, we're not doing this. Like, that was the breaking point. It was like something so little, but it just all came together. Like, it's impossible. And I knew that telling her that she couldn't come to my wedding was going to be like done with the relationship. And she still reaches, I get texts randomly from her today. Mm-hmm. Like, I still get texts from my mom, but now it's been a year that I have not responded to her, basically.
So you didn't respond, or you officially told her?
I told her I'm done. Like, what
did that conversation look like? Because I'm sure there are people who are in that predicament and don't even know where to start with the conversation of letting someone know that like they want them out of their lives.
Yeah. So with her, just trying to reason with my mom for years. I just knew that like it wasn't gonna. I'm not gonna listen to any type of argument she has against me not talking to her anymore, cutting her off. I'm just gonna say it and do it. Because there's no point. There's no reasoning with a person like that. If I explain why I'm upset, she would immediately turn it around on me. So It got to a point where I spoke my mind, and she would come back with, I don't even know what you're talking about type stuff. Like, what are you talking about? I was a great mother, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's something that she still holds today, is that she was a great mom. Yeah. She refuses to deny that. So I just was like, okay, like I spoke my mind. I said what I had to. She sent me like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs until I blocked her number that day. And then I didn't speak to her since. And then like I would unblock her to see if she would send, like right now she's unblocked. So like I'll randomly like get messages, and it's like weird messages too. Like, she let me borrow like some like old furniture, and she's like, hey, where's my furniture at? Like, I want my furniture. I'm like, what? Like those are like random messages I get from her.
Yeah. So do you ever worry that she's going to, like, because now you're about to have like a family of your own, right? Like, you had your own family who knows the craziness of mom, but like now you're bringing in a fiance, a wife, possibly kids in the future.
Hold up.
What?
No, the kids.
Yeah. So have we not thought about this yet?
I mean, not right now. I'm not thinking about those little guys. I can't even picture a mini me running around. I wouldn't hate him, but I mean, he'd be annoying as hell.
Background, Devin and Nicole have a lot of kids around them at all times, so he's not anti-kid.
It's just they're
just working it out. You're seeing kids for what they are.
Yeah, okay. I love my nieces, my nephews on both sides. Nicole's, niece and nephews, my nieces and nephews. I love them. They're awesome. But could I live with them? That's the other thing. I couldn't.
Yeah. But do you fear? Do you have any fears of your mom popping up or finding out where you live one day, or coming in between?
I don't know if it would get to that extent. I mean, she's getting pretty old. It would be difficult, to travel like that now at her age. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's a real threat, because I mean, my sister has had her cut off for so long. My brother, I mean, maybe she gets pushed to a point where that would be something that she would do, because even recently she knew my dad's address. So my dad, and this has been 12 years, no, longer than that, 2007, 2008, they got divorced. So yeah, 13 years now. He got a letter from it didn't have a name on it, and it was thick, it was a book in an envelope. He was like, what the hell is this? He opened it up. It was pages and pages of just hand typed letter from my mom sent to his address after all this time, still telling how he ruined her life and he took her kids away from her and all this stuff. So my sister told me about it, and she was like, yeah, Dad didn't want to tell you because he didn't want you to be upset. And then I got an email, and it was addressed to multiple of old emails of mine, and then my current one was mixed in there. So she was making sure I got it. She used every contact thing, and it was a copy of that letter she sent. Mm-hmm. So I read it, and that was the first time even after a year of cutting her off, that I realized, and this was probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. So that's when I realized, okay, I'm still having problems with this. I haven't fully processed or grieved, I guess, as it's yet, because it affected me really hard. Me and my sister talked. We had a long conversation about it, and that's when I was like, okay, yeah, this is never going to go away. Yeah, it's always going to be a problem, but it's just realizing that the outcome is a lot more positive by doing so. So it's just worth it. I'm way happier getting a random message from my mom once in a while that'll trigger something for 10 minutes and then go away. That's 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. I can handle that for a lifetime of just peace and not worrying about things and having a good relationship. Because after my mom was out of the equation, my relationship with my sister, we talked multiple times a week. Same with my brother, same with my dad, same with my stepmom, same with everybody. My whole family is so close now, and it's just completely different. It's like a healthy family. That's what it feels like. So
did your siblings and your dad cut your mom off at some point? Did they do it before you? Was there anyone who didn't want to cut mom off and it was uncomfortable for them?
It was me. I was the one who was uncomfortable.
You were the last one.
I was the last one. So my sister was the first one because she was the oldest. So she got the worst of it. And she was the only girl. So my mom treated her like a best friend. And it got to a point where if they would have issues, she would reach out to my sister's ex-boyfriends on Facebook and be saying bad things about my sister to someone she never even talked to. Ex-boyfriends we're talking about. Yeah. And my sister was high school at the time. So it was just so messed up for her because she's dealing with, everybody, my siblings and me, we all have mental health issues now because of it. It's just completely caused a lot of issues in our life, and it's going to be like that for a while, and we just continue to work on ourselves. But my sister got the worst end of it. She was the first one. So she was working 2 jobs, going to high school. As soon as she turned 18, she moved out, worked 3 jobs, went to college, got out of there, cut her off immediately, never talked to her since. My brother and me, it took a while. So my brother was with me that whole time when I talked about moving to Washington and the taking away the router and all that stuff. So he left. I had friends in Georgia. It was really tough for me to leave. So I stayed a couple months. Okay. So he was gone by then, and that's when he cut her off. I'm the only one who kept up with her years afterwards. I moved back in with her for a little bit, just when I moved back to Georgia, kind of to get, just to get situated again until I got a place and things like that. And I continued to talk to her and see her once in a while, help her move, stuff like that. So I was the one who was constantly talking to my siblings. They're just cut her off. This is bad. This is not good. And I would be yeah, but if I cut her off, she'll have absolutely nobody. Once her parents pass away, which they're not doing too well anyway, that's it. That's the only people she has, including me. So if I leave, she has nobody. And especially having relationships or attempted relationships with other guys after my dad, they all failed miserably. They were terrible, unhealthy, and that's just another sign. Hey, if everybody feels this way about you, there's something wrong with you. But because of just her mental health issues, she's unwilling to accept that. And I'm a big believer in you're kind of a product of your environment. But so knowing the situation she grew up in was another thing where I was I kind of like use that as an excuse to not cut her off. I was like, I know how she grew up. I know why she's like this.
Right.
So it was like a reason for me. I was like, I can't just...
It's like hard to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with ironically, my mental health issues caused by her allowed me to be more understanding towards her mental health issues, which made me, it made it harder for me to cut her off just because I used that. I'm like, well, she just doesn't know better. That's just what I would use.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up because... Not to get too deep, but I want to know, like, what impacts do you think that her behavior had on your life and your mental health? We're getting in
no,
there.
that's fine. I mean, to be completely clear, I'm fucked up. I mean, if that's okay to say on here.
Yeah.
But like my whole family is like that. My siblings, we're all fucked up. Like we're all messed up in the head because of it. Like that's why like therapy sessions, me and my brother have panic disorder, which is basically like imagine panic attacks that last nonstop for 3 days, 4 days at a time.
Right.
So you're just like kind of like under blankets, just like not being able to sleep, lights on until 3 a.m. until your body shuts down. You get 2 hours, wake up, same thing. You're back in the panic attack. So like I started like taking whatever, Xanax, doing whatever I could to kind of like lower that down until I got psychiatrist who was able to, give me the right things. So I was able to take that for 2 years and get a lot better. So I'm off medication now, but I still deal with things every day.
You feel like you have these panic attacks and this panic disorder because like your mom's behavior was so erratic, you didn't know when it was coming, you were on eggshells all the time? Or
I think it's just dealing with stress all day every day for years and years and years, especially when like your brain is still you're still developing,
growing.
So like being a child and like having nights where I was like I didn't know what was going on, or being in high school and being so stressed out I would have headaches and I would be in tears because of it, and just like like it's just days and days of just like willing to be homeless to have like a regular relationship with your mom. I was like there would be days where I was like, I wish you would just talk about these things and reason with me. If I would give away everything I own just to have a relationship where we can talk and figure our problems out like normal people, because it was just driving me crazy. And I knew for years, I'm so close to having a mental breakdown until it finally happened.
Yeah.
Just because of all that. It was just constant.
So I heard this quote on a podcast that I listened to at one time, and I'm trying to find it in my notes, but I can't find it.
Okay.
But it said something along the lines of, so for me personally, like I have been through different mental health issues myself, and I really blamed myself for a long time because I was like, okay, yeah, my parents are like this, but I wasn't looking at it as like a direct correlation. And I think a lot of people can drown in their mental health issues and feel like they're not good enough and they're shitty because this is happening to them. But I think it's important to remember that your parents' mental health issues and their trauma that could be, it most likely is generational, is a sickness that they have. And you are a living, breathing example of the symptoms from their sickness.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that like really resonated with me, and it hit me hard because I was like, it feels like such a beautiful, like, great way to say like it's not your fault that you have this panic disorder and that you have this anxiety and that you go through depression. Like that is because of your parents, and it's just you're the symptom of it, unfortunately. Yeah. But I also commend you. You mentioned that you've been to therapy and you've been a psychiatrist and stuff like that. I commend you for realizing that maybe it's not your fault, but it is your job to work on it and to at least make it manageable for yourself. So I do want to like give you props on that.
Thank you.
And props to anybody else who's taking care of themselves in that way and maybe thinking really harshly about their mental health because you're just a symptom of the environment that you grew up in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how as close as you got to that quote, it's probably a great quote.
I know. I'm like, where is it in here?
No, but I love it. I mean, it's true because like when it comes to your parents, like that's what I said. I said it earlier. I'm just a strong believer in that everybody is just a product of their own environment.
Totally.
And nobody would survive and nobody would make it out without somewhat of a good influence around them. Yeah. Like you need people. If you're in a situation like that and you have nobody, if I didn't have my friend to live with, if I didn't have my dad to allow me to come out to Washington and stay with him, like if I didn't have these like normal, healthy people that really care about me in my life, I would have been in a lot worse situation as I am now. So what you have to realize is that you have no control over the parents that you're forced to be, to grow up with, and you're forced to have them raise you. It's your goal to find the good people around you and not take advantage of them, but
lean on them.
Exactly, lean on them because they'll do the same with you, and just working your way out of it. Like everybody around me, everybody is fucked up in some way.
Totally.
They all go through something. It's just important to just identify what's wrong, talk to people around you, lean, like you said, perfect word for it, lean on people around you that are just good people, and just work your way out.
Yeah, and I used to have a really big issue with like accepting help and accepting support from friends and different family members and friends, parents, and things like that. But so if you have that issue where like you feel like you're too proud, your pride gets in the way, that ego is there, I think it's important to note that, like Devin said, that's literally how you probably were able to really survive it and like get through it. Yeah. Those moments is by leaning on your people. Yeah.
And I think I feel like that's another, like, having that pride and all of that. That's just another issue that you have because of the way you're raised. It's the way you're raised.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like this whole thing of like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Do it yourself type mentality, which is good for a lot of things, but when it comes to this, it's not good for it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of things you have to do on your own, but there's some things you just can't. So having that, like, do it yourself, I got this mentality, like, oh, I'll figure it out. I don't need anybody. I don't need therapy, whatever. It's just going to be more damage in the long run. It's either going to be a point where it just damages you and you never heal, or it's going to damage you until it gets to the point where you have to go in to see somebody or talk to somebody or whatever, because it's just going to get too bad.
You're going to break the fuck down.
Yeah. So it's just better to just stop the bleeding now. If you're thinking about this, listening, whatever, and you're just kind of realizing that that's you, just like stop it right now. Schedule an appointment with somebody, and I swear on my life it'll help more than you would ever think it would.
Yeah. I love that. So for the people, I've heard this my whole life, when I would like talk about my dad and how disappointed I was in his behavior, and he wouldn't listen to me, blah, blah, blah. I'd always have my mom in my ear. But that's your dad. That's your family. You can't just cut off your family. Like, who do you think you are, kind of a deal? I really disagree with that. So did you get any, I know your family was all on board with cutting off, but did you get any hate from anyone or any looks or anything like that?
Well, my mom's family probably fucking despised me, but it doesn't matter because they're all cut off anyway.
Yeah, so the whole family tree on that side went out.
The whole thing.
Cut the branch.
I'm not dealing with them because there's two reasons for it, right? Once, they're all fucking terrible.
She got the behavior from them too, I'm sure.
Exactly. I mean, my grandparents, oh my gosh, they're fucked up.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
Like, they're terrible. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, if you have your own reasons for it, but you just have to figure it out. Like, if family are like my biggest pet peeve ever is what you just used. Well, that's your dad.
Yeah.
Because it's making an excuse because that's just the type of person he is, which, I mean, you could do that to anybody. You could be the worst person on earth and then, oh, that's just that person. Like, you're just taking away from what they're doing because of who they are and how they act. And that's just them. That's not an excuse to have that type of behavior. But if your family disapproves, like, you have your own reason. Like, talk to them about it. If they don't understand or they have a different viewpoint on it, hear them out, but just kind of ignore them. Like, just don't worry about it. Just think about it. Every time you talk to them and they say something, remember why you did it.
Yeah.
Think about why you did it. Why did I do this? Okay. It was terrible. Okay, great. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I get it. Yeah, I'll think about it. And then just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, there's no point. The family members aren't going to listen to you. There's no point of trying to talk them into it.
And ultimately, like, your family members aren't in your shoes. Like, those people who are judging on the outside, they have no idea what that brain looks like inside of your body. Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, take care of yourself. Put yourself first. And in this case, your family first, too, because you doing what you needed to do with your mom and kind of cutting ties with that relationship impacted in a great way the rest of your family's lives as well, which Absolutely. You mentioned, like, you guys really grew closer from that, and it seems like you're all happier because of the decision that you made.
And 100%. And like what you were saying, when you have a family member and then other family members are asking you why or they disapprove, they're hearing like the other family member that you cut off story.
Yeah.
They're hearing both sides, and maybe that person's convincing. Maybe they're making sense to them, but at the same time, like you said, they're not in your shoes.
Maybe they're being manipulated.
Exactly.
But that really is a thing, though.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Because people play the victim, and they'll it doesn't even have to be massive changes to the story, just little changes to make you look worse or to make them look better. And I mean, just being a person hearing these two sides constantly, unless you were there, you don't really know what to believe. This person's saying one thing, this person's saying the other. They can work it out. Yeah. That's usually how it is, right? Well, they disagree on this. They can work it out. How bad could it be? But they're not being affected by it as, the person dealing with this person they're trying to cut off.
Yeah. So how would you describe, like, your headspace around cutting your mom off. So obviously this has worked out for the better, right? We're clear on that. Like, this was a good decision overall, but I mean, I can't imagine that you would move forward and just not think twice about mourning that mother-son relationship. Like, I'm sure it's never a relationship that you can compare to your friends and stuff like that.
No, not at all. I mean, there's some people that witness, like, you know, Jake, right? My buddy Jake. By the way, he's like, when I mentioned a friend letting me stay with him, that was him and his parents. Amazing people.
Snaps to Jake.
Exactly. Forever thankful for him and his parents. They're the sweetest people on earth. They helped me more than they would ever know. Yeah, I mean, mourning the amount of times that I, like, ask my fiance, like, randomly, do you think I should reach out to my mom? Like, still to this day.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just like...
And what's the reason behind it?
It's just the same thing, like, hoping that it's more for her benefit than mine. I don't really have any. I mean, right now it's just like I'm at a point where it's like I didn't get a normal mother-son relationship. It made me who I am today. I'm happy with who I am today. It made me extremely, like, strong. Like, going through something very, very serious makes anything else, all the little things, not seem serious.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like I've gotten a lot tougher because of it, because I went through something that affected me so bad that now, like, these little things don't really matter to me anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't really care for, like, a mother-son relationship too much now because it's just past that point. But the main reason I always, like, I'm saying these things, oh, should I reach out? Should I reach out? It's just on her side. I feel bad for her. Yeah. It sounds weird, but there's no part of me that misses any part of our relationship. You know, part of, like, when you're first cutting them off at this point, when you're first cutting them off, you think about the good things that they've done. Yeah,
like, did you guys have those good times?
Not really, because now, like, just knowing her, it just seems like an act to put on for other people, or a reason for me to not be mad at her. It's so a manipulation tactic. It seems so fake because she would bring it up all the time. Like, I did this for you and I did that for you. Like, a big star of the fight, like, you know me, I don't mind talking about it, but I've been to jail a few times.
Yeah.
And the person that would show up every time or, like, put money on, by the way, people have never been to jail, which is probably most of you. Books are a place that you put your money on so you can, like, buy food and stuff, like nicer food, not like the shit quality food that they have. The person that was putting money on my books was my mom. The person visiting me every week was my mom, all these things. So that was that experience I went through, like the jail experience, that was a big part of it. Was like, my mom was there for me the whole time.
Yeah, she took care of you.
Exactly. But that's in the past, right?
And did she throw that stuff in your face at a later date?
She would start fights. Like, part of the fights she would start would be, like, me going, oh, you remember when you went to jail? Like, that would be, like, a start of a conversation with her. Just to kind of, and then I would ignore it, and then she would keep poking at me. So I started thinking things like that. Like, after I thought, oh, she helped me so much, I'm like, and then I would immediately think that, oh, remember when you went to jail? And I was like, this is why I fucking want to do this. Like, yeah, I was like, you. Exactly. It's like, she helped me there, but the damage she's doing, it doesn't matter what the fuck I did back then. It doesn't matter what she did back then. It's how she's acting now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big reason people don't cut people off, is because of what they've done for them in the past. If that's over with, think about how it is now. Don't think about how it was then or what they've done for you. If it's affecting you, like, very, very negatively now, it's a sign that you should end it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have experience cutting off a family member, but I do with some friends, and I have realized even relationships that have ended, romantic relationship, friendships, whatever it may be, we as human beings tend to romanticize those relationships, right? Like, I totally forgot that my ex, like, gaslit me, manipulated me, called me some pretty terrible things, like, was not nice to me, and all I was thinking about was, like, all the great times and how in love we were and whatever, and then that's why I write things down that piss me off when people do it. Yeah. Not to throw it back in your face like your mom kind of did, but to remember when that relationship ends, like, this is how you treated me. Like, this is the shit that you put onto me and stress me the fuck out about.
I feel like it's some type of evolution of our brain that does that, because I feel like that's with everybody, where as soon as something ends, they think about only the good things. Yeah. They can't let go of that, and it seems so much better than it was. Like you said, romanticized, no matter what it is, whether it be past, like you said, romantic relationships or family members or friends or whatever, you think about the good times. But I think writing it down is awesome.
Yeah.
Writing things down is an awesome way to do it, because you have to, there's a reason why you did it in the first place. You can't let that affect your decision. You got to think, again, it all comes down to being logical about it. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
And then you think about, write down whatever you got to do to remember why you did it. And then that will like condition your brain into eventually, when you think about the situation, you think about it in a real way, not just a romanticized way or all the good things. You think about the real relation. You'll accept that there's good things.
Yeah.
But the
you're grateful for those things, I'm sure.
But the negative outweighed the bad so bad, especially when they keep going.
Yeah.
On and on and on. Can you deal with that the rest of your life?
Definitely. What advice would you give to Unbreakably Bold listeners if they are going through this time of contemplating if they should cut their family off, or if they are going through a long period of time without speaking to their family because of something crazy that happened? What advice would you give them? And I know we're all like, cut them off, like if they're negatively impacting your life, but like, you know, let's come from a compassionate place as well and like think about what they're going through right now in this stage of grief, kind of.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to just say, oh, cut them all off and what, right? I want to put this in a good way where people can really think about what's going on in their life and the people that they're dealing with, or whoever, like us talking about, that they're thinking of, you know, of them wanting to cut it off. You have to sit down, whether it be talk to friends. The biggest part of this is being honest with yourself. You have to think to yourself, am I going to tell my friend and make it sound as bad as possible, or am I going to be 100% honest, talk about the negative things that we both did? Yeah. You have to be 100% honest when you're talking about it or thinking about it. Put that pride away. Think, what did I do wrong? Is it just an argument? Is it something we could get over, or are they really impacting your mental health, you know, your life? Are they making everything negative? Are you stressing out about it? Are you changing as a person because of it? Like serious stuff. We're not talking about disagreements or like political views or like bullshit like that. We're talking about real effects on your mental health.
Is it making you sick?
Exactly.
Literally.
Are you thinking about it all the time? Can you not stop thinking about it? Is it worrying you? Are they pissing you off to a point where it's daily? Are they making you upset? You know, are you questioning your own reality, which is then being poured into all of your other relationships that you care about too? Is important. You shed tears because of this stuff. Like, think about that. Is it a real thing to cut somebody off over, right? You have to also, at the same time, I hate to do this, right? I hate to just disregard younger people. But like, when I think back to when I was young, like even like my dad or whatever, my dad, right? Like, he didn't do anything wrong, but as a kid, I saw one thing. Yeah. Like, I would have never cut him off now, right? People I had disagreements with in the past, I'm not going to cut them off because I'm a kid. I don't understand. They tell me something I don't want to hear. I don't understand at the time. So you have to, are you just not getting what you want as well, right? There's certain things you just have to view it in a real way. And then once you really look at it and be honest with yourself and think, is this really affecting me like that? Then you can decide if it's worth trying to save the relationship or just ending it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I really like that you said, like, don't just throw it out the window, right? Like, really think about the relationship. And also, did you have any part in what they do? Now, I don't, like, if you're getting, like, physically abused, like, emotionally abused, anything like that, like, am I doing anything to upset them to where they're hitting me? Like, that's not what, that is not what I mean.
I try to be safe and I still fuck that up. Yeah, I mean, in a situation like that, yeah, just dip, right?
Yeah.
But I mean like situations like, none of that, no physical stuff. I mean, if you're being, like, abused constantly every day, you've thought about it enough, right? It's time to get out of there. Like, if we're even saying that and you're relating it to a relationship in your life, get the fuck out of there.
We do recognize too that it may be a little bit difficult if you're depending on this family member for money, for a home, like a roof over your head, things like that. An abusive household is not easy to live in, and it's not easy to just get up and leave. So that's going to be we'll do a whole another episode on that.
Okay. I mean, if it comes to like you're financially dependent on this person, I mean, I feel like it's a lot more difficult if you're like married to this person, you're financially dependent on them. Depending on how far you are in life with your parents, use it as motivation to get out of there. A great example, my sister, right? She used the relationship and how terrible my mom was as motivation to become the person she is today, to get out of the house as soon as she was 18, pay off her college already, right? She worked multiple jobs to do it. She was like 100% like just motivated to get out and be more successful because of it. She just used it as, I'm never coming back here. I'm never having my mom as a backup. I'm never going to do that again. Yeah. I'm getting out of here as soon as possible, and I'm going out, moving far away, and just enjoying my life. And it ended up, I mean, of course, like mentally, we're still messed up, but it helped her in that regard. Just being like super motivated and just willing to do whatever it takes to be successful and to be taken care of, like taking care of herself.
Yeah. So I have some questions that people sent in. Are you down to answer these? Now, some of these might have already like kind of come up, but we can go through it again and just be more direct about them.
Okay.
Thank you for everybody who sent some questions in. I am really trying to do this for all the episodes because this is so fun, and we want to directly help you guys as well. So, first question, do you consider other family members knowing gatherings won't be as tight-knit? This one might be a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, mine doesn't apply to this.
Yeah.
Right? Mine doesn't apply to this just because it's a whole side of a family I'm cutting out, right? Like my mom comes with all of them. All the freak show over there on that side, right? I just completely cut off. So, I mean, I don't deal with that because I just never see any of them. I wish I had advice, but I just...
This one I can relate to a little bit. My friend is going through cutting off one of their siblings. This sibling has been physically abusive, emotionally abusive, very toxic to the rest of the family. So there's definitely reason there to let that person go. And it is pretty awkward at family gatherings. You know, not everyone can sit at the same tables together. We're scared of more fights breaking out. It can get pretty intense, especially because we're dealing with people who have their own mental illnesses. The answer to that question is it is uncomfortable and it does have an impact on family gatherings. But at the end of the day, your mental health and who you are as a person and who you want to grow to be is more important than the impact it has on everybody else. And if everybody else has an issue with it and they can understand that you're putting up boundaries and doing what you need to really protect yourself and keep yourself safe, then those people are going to just die off anyways, which not die off. Maybe that sounds ridiculous.
Not literally.
But, you know, not literally, but, you know, they will end up kind of just peeling off on their own, and you just got to put yourself first. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but everyone will get adjusted. Yeah,
because if it's a situation where like you're being affected so bad by it that you have to cut somebody off, like the family members around you are going to act like it's such a big deal to them, but they're just dealing with the secondhand, you know, problems of it. They're dealing with, oh, why don't you talk to them? It's giving stress to our family, but they're not dealing with it firsthand like you were.
Well, or they might be, and they just enable the behavior because they've seen the struggles that that family member has been through, which, you know, with your parents, or I mean, with your grandparents and how they were with your mom, like I'm sure that they heard her sides of the story and they've seen stuff that she struggled with, so they enabled that behavior as well. I think that like those family members also probably contribute in enabling behavior, and they're also in the wrong, but they're not going to listen either. So
good call.
You do you take care of yourself and you put up your own boundaries, and that's all you can do. Let people care if they want, let people worry about that impact on the family gatherings if they want, but protect yourself. And honestly, you have control of taking yourself out of that situation. If it makes you uncomfortable and you feel like everyone's staring at you, don't go to the family gatherings. And I know that like it's tough, but like I told y'all, I be given tough love. I'm very direct. So that's just what my experience has been. Second question, what to do when the rest of your family doesn't understand or support your decision? I think I kind of just went into that one.
Yeah, I think you basically answered both of those.
Yeah, worry about yourself, take care of yourself, understand that you're doing what you need to do to protect yourself. And if you have your own family, you know, like husband, wife, daughters, sons on the other side, you're doing what you need to protect them too. And that's super fucking noble, and you should be proud. Third question, how have you dealt with grieving someone that is still alive? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is like how they put that question. That's really how it is.
It's beautiful,
like,
right? I know.
Yeah, it's like they have like you feel like they've died, but you know they're around there somewhere. That's just what it feels like. But it's just it's something that you're never gonna completely get over. Like I feel like the day my mom dies, that will be one of the saddest days of my life. Like, yeah. And right now, which is why I think about it so much, is because I don't want to regret the decision I made. But and then thinking about the present, I'm like, it's worth it. Like it's my life is so much better now because of it. And it's just something that I have to do. You know, at some point in the future of my life where I feel like I might be able to reach out, maybe even to get a little bit more closure with her, I might think about it. But right now it's not even in the question.
Yeah.
But it is really like grieving somebody who's died. They're just out there somewhere.
So what do you do when you like get sad about your mom, or like you worry about her and her health and that she is going to die alone, like you mentioned? Like, what are your tools and resources to work through those times?
The way I deal with that is almost like kind of like a reminder of why I did it in the first place. Because I just go to my sister, I go to my fiance, I go to my brother, my father. Like, I have all these people around me to like kind of talk to them about it.
Okay.
So it's almost like I wouldn't have this if I didn't do this in the first place. And my sister's really logical. She makes things make sense. She's really good at that. So whenever I run into an issue, I talk to her, and she's like, just think about it. You know, just think, why, like, would we be having this conversation? Would you be as happy as you are now? Would you be more or less stressed about your wedding? You know, how would everything go? And then once you put it in perspective, you realize, okay, yeah, like there's a lot of negatives to it, but the positives are going to outweigh that.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, we were kind of talking about earlier, like you tend to romanticize these relationships that you have, but I also think that like there are definitely parents, like I have parents who are salty than they're sweet, you know, and that's facts. And they don't even necessarily throw it in front of my face that they did so much. So I think it's also good. I really love gratitude. As you guys know, I talk about it in like basically every episode ever, because you should be super grateful for those times that you had with that person. And like, I'm sure they're beautiful times, and I love that you get to have those. Those times probably taught you what love really meant to you.
Like,
and
for anyone out there, bailing you out of jail, for example, or things like that.
Yeah, like,
I'm just kidding. That's personal experience, but things like that. Exactly.
No, but that is love. Like,
yeah.
Getting bailed out of jail is not like a click of a button. Like, shit takes time.
But
and
this is how salty I am. Like this, like even talking about this, I'm like, yeah, well, that was just for other people to know, like, or that was just because he had to. Like, that's how I think about it even now. I'm like, she just had to do that shit. She didn't really care about it.
Yeah.
You know, she wouldn't have thrown it back in my face multiple times afterwards. So so I'm not 100% healed, right? I'm not 100% happy with everything.
Through it.
But that's part of this answer. It's
but
like,
I think that'll be a lifelong thing for you, unfortunately.
100%. Because it's a debate that comes up weekly of like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's been over a year. So it's going to keep going. It's not going to be as intense. It'll probably pop up maybe once every month, you know, or whatever. It'll go like a couple months when I'm not thinking about her, but it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, just make sure that you are thinking about those good times and you're grateful for those good times, but you also remember the way that they treated you in the aftermath and how they negatively impacted your life and how they made you feel about yourself, and be able to really separate the two and keep moving in the direction you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah. What you got to realize is everybody's good and bad. It just, which one are they more of?
Yeah. Which outweighs the other. Yeah. That's a good point. Question 4, what is the best way to distance yourself without them getting offended? They're getting offended.
Yeah, there's no way
likely
not to do it. Even if you try to extend it out and just slowly ghost them, just respond less and less. Like they're going to call it like way before you even cut them off. They're going to predict it. They're seeing what's happening. So they're going to either call you out on it. The best way to do it is to try to have maybe 1, 2, 3 honest conversations with them and see how they react to it. If they're still in denial, they still are, you know, trying to turn it around on you or whatever, you're just not getting to them, then it's a sign that you should just do it. Okay, the last conversation, when you've had enough, however many conversation it takes, just decide right there. Just tell them, okay, I'm done with this. You know, just let them know, I'm not doing this anymore. See ya. Great. Awesome. And then just cut it off right there. Because if you kind of get sucked back into a conversation, it's just going to be never ending. So you just have to as soon as it clicks in your brain, we've done this 3 times, I'm not doing this anymore. Just right there, just be like, all right, I'm done. See ya.
Here's the facts. A toxic person, there are 2 main traits that separate a toxic person from someone who's not toxic. Number 1, they are not self-aware. They really will probably never be self-aware, especially if you're dealing with someone who has serious personality disorders or serious mental illnesses. And number 2 is they don't care about how they make you feel, because they continue to do it over and over and over again. And that's the difference. Somebody who's not toxic will try to be self-aware, and they do ultimately genuinely care about human beings, and they don't just do nice things to throw it in your face. So they're not gonna get it, and they probably will be offended because they don't see what they ever did wrong in the first place. They think it's on you. They think it's most likely your fault. So kind of going back to probably what the underlying advice is for all of these questions is, worry about yourself and feel confident in what you're doing to protect yourself and to make it a safe place for yourself. Mm-hmm. You were going to say something, I think?
No, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you finished it just with what I wanted to say.
I have some experience with some toxic
No,
peeps,
yeah, for sure. I mean, another sign too that I just thought of, it might be just random to put it in here, but like you said, they're not self-aware, but maybe like not apologizing at all, or apologizing and not changing, and just continuing
no
to do
accountability.
the same thing. Exactly. So I feel like that's a big sign, is if they apologize and they change their behavior, that's a good person right there.
Yeah.
They saw how it affected you. They saw it was a negative situation, and they were able to change it and think about you in any situation that came up in the future to not do that anymore. If they're repeatedly doing it or just not apologizing at all and twisting it on you, that's a massive sign right there.
Yeah. And the question was, like, what's the best way to distance yourself?
Rip the Band-Aid off.
In what way?
That's rip the Band-Aid off. Like I was saying, the appropriate way to distance yourself is just ripping the Band-Aid off, just doing it quick, not keeping it on. That's why I use, like, however many conversations it takes for you to just have that click and just end it right there. Not reach out. Maybe you just need some time. Maybe, just like end it right there. Don't keep conversations going with them or keep it up. If you're going to cut somebody off or take a break from somebody, like, for real. Don't, you just got to think about it. Just take time, think about it, have those conversations, whether it be with people or with yourself. Be honest, and then that will decide if you should reach back out to them or not.
Yeah, I love that. I want to piggyback off of that, because I think that too many times when we're making big decisions like this, we're like really thinking about the future. We're really thinking like down the line, and at the end of the day, like the whole point of like, being a part of this podcast and everything that I talk about is living in the present, not over planning and freaking out about the future. That's where you're going to live in a state of anxiety, which is going to freak you out about how this person's going to be offended ultimately. And I think it's like, make the decision to distance yourself and take a break for today, for now, and keep doing it until ultimately what's going to end up happening if this person's really toxic and has a negative impact on your life is you're going to take that break for a little while, and it's just going to take its own path, and it's just going to linger, and it's going to end up cutting itself off. Like, you're going to let God and the universe do the work for you, because that person's probably not supposed to be in your life anyway. So look at it as something that you're dealing with in the present, not what you're dealing with tomorrow, next week, 3 months, 3 years from now. So another one is just somebody sent in, I think, like, an inner war they're having in their head, getting over that they are your blood and your connection to earth, but they violate your boundaries.
It gets to a point where they're so bad you have to see them as just a regular person. You have to see, like, other situations. Okay, if somebody else that I didn't know or somebody else friends would treat me this way, what would I do? Because it doesn't make a difference in the end. It still has the same effects on you. It's going to hurt a little bit worse because it is a family member, like, to cut them off, but it hurts worse that they're doing that to you because they're a family member. So you're getting affected more negatively by it. It's going to hurt cutting them off, but no matter who it is, whether they're blood or friends or whatever the case is, once you eliminate that out of your life, like, it's just... You're human. You're going to heal from it. It's going to get better over time. You're going to be happy that you did it. And if it gets to a point where, you're rethinking it or you start noticing little things like maybe I overreacted or whatever, be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, be honest. Was it worth cutting them off? What did they do? Collection of things. What all did they do? Not just the thing that basically made you decide to do it for good, but what led up to that. And just be honest. Was I responsible for any of that? Was I not responsible? And figure it out.
Yeah, I think to a mindset shift you could try here is, if you were talking to your best friend and they told you that they were experiencing the exact same situations and experiences that you are having with their brother, sister, whatever, that family member, how would you respond to that, and how would you want them to move forward to protect themselves? Because I bet you, if you're a good person, you'd be like, yo, you don't deserve that. You got to, like, somehow get out of their life. Like, you can't be around that.
Yeah, and I mean, and just being realistic with yourself that it's going to fucking suck. It's going to be terrible. It's not going to be fun at all. The fact that it's blood, like, you can get past that, or you can live with it for the rest of your life. You just have to make that decision of what's going to affect you in a more of a positive way. It's going to be terrible no matter what. What's going to be worse, though? Will I be able to get over it after I cut them off? Because you're definitely not getting over it if you're with them every day. You're dealing with that every day.
Yeah.
So it's just a commitment to yourself of what you're going to do.
Yep. Back to take care of yourself. You should be your priority. Does cutting a family member off look the same as cutting off a friend? Ooh. You've done both.
I've done both, but like the funny thing is, we were just talking about this, is that cutting off my mom made it easier to cut off everybody else that I've cut off since. It's like fucking just anybody can get it.
Someone hand me the scissors, anyone.
Yeah, any one of you guys can get it. So if any of my friends are listening right now, just remember that, how you talk to me. I'm just kidding. But like once I cut off my mom, it was so bad. Like I said, it's going to fucking suck that like other things you start noticing. You cut them off and then you're like, I'll get to it. And maybe in the past you would have gotten to it. But at this point you realize, hey, I don't care. This person's affecting me more negative than positive. I don't really care if they're in my life. I'm just not going to reach out. And then you stop and then life moves on. You never think about it again.
Yeah.
So that's how it is, really. I mean,
and we're definitely going to do an episode on cutting off friends. I got a lot of experience with that one, so. Yeah,
it's not going to be nearly as hard. Friends, depending on the age, too. I feel like the age is a huge thing. Once you get older, it gets easier to cut off friends. Mm-hmm. Family members, it's never going to get easier to cut off a family member. That's the difference.
Well, I think because your family, like, you're more connected in the sense that you have extended family and other people that you see all the time for special occasions and birthdays and Christmas and holidays, whereas your friends, like, you don't have that constant reminder of them necessarily, unless you're in the same friend group. But I definitely think that there can be some overlapping for sure.
And the fact that you're born and you were raised with these people.
And you have literally, like, their blood.
Yeah, and we talked about romanticizing things. Like, that's your family. It's a lot different than, you've known somebody for 5-6 years and you cut them off. Like, this person raised you, they fed you, depending on who it is, right? You've just been around them your whole life. It's a lot more difficult if you're super, super close to that family member to cut them off.
Yeah.
Just because you have more to romanticize about.
Sure.
You have more good memories.
Yeah. What if you're financially dependent on them or if they're your legal guardian?
We went over this a little bit, but yeah, use it as motivation. I hate saying that because like a lot of situations you have to get out, but depending on how bad it is, like if it's like I talked about my situation, right? I use that as motivation after a long time. Dealing with it was terrible. It was all mental and it fucked me up. If I could have gotten out of there earlier, I would have. But if you don't have an option, you don't have control over that. It depends on how bad it is. If you have to get out of there, you got to find a way. Whether it be people to lean on that we talked about earlier, right? Reach out to other family members that understand, people that you talk to. If you have really good friends and you're good friends with their parents, right, then a lot of the times they know about the situation. They're willing to take you in. There's a lot of sweet people out there. So if it's bad enough that you have to get out, but if it's enough that you can manage it, you realize it's bad and just use it as, hey, I'm going to do whatever it fucking takes to never be back here. It can benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. Yep. Use it as a goal. And then this last one, it's not necessarily a question, but I think just something that she's learned and wanted to share, which I love. Learning that forgiveness and love does not require a relationship with that person. And I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a good point.
Yeah.
You don't 100%. Have to keep someone in your life just because you love them. You can love them from afar if they don't treat you the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's different ways, that somebody loves somebody else, but like that, right? It doesn't require you spending time with them or reaching out to them or whatever. We talked about it earlier, right? They did appreciate all the good things they've done for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe that made you love them, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in contact with them at all times or anything like that. You got to do what the whole theme of this thing has become: what's best for yourself.
Okay.
Exactly. So just do that.
And I think the second part of what she said, too, that's important to look into is that you don't need to have the closure. Like, you don't need an apology from them. They probably are never going to give you that apology. And if they do ever come to you with an apology, like, great, do what you want with that. I'm sure you've been waiting forever for that one. I'm sure it's super satisfying. But ultimately, find a way to find that apology within yourself. Like, you don't need it verbally from them. Don't keep opening up the portal just to get that closure. I think we've all probably done that in relationships, friendships, whatever. You always think you need the closure, but the closure is within yourself. Like you just said, this is basically the theme of this whole episode. And it's really the whole theme of Unbreakably Bold is loving yourself and respecting yourself. Find that validation within yourself, because at the end of the day, you're looking for validation from that person if you're looking for that forgiveness.
Yeah. And really, I mean, just like the whole, going back to the whole theme of everything, is doing that for yourself is going to make every other relationship better.
Yeah.
It's like not having that person will make you less stressed. You'll be nicer to people. You won't be as snappy to people. They won't have to deal with that person. If you're close to them, I'm sure they wouldn't like this person either. So it's all like worry about yourself, because everything will pay off in the long run. People like the people around you will like spending time with you more because you'll be happier.
Yeah. And think of it like this. This is how I think of about like any relationships that I've ended, or friends that leave my life, or I leave their lives, whatever that looks like. The more that you're clearing out that space, the more that you're letting those people go with ease, you're not holding on or feeling like you need to be in control, the more space you're opening up for somebody who's actually going to come in and value and treat you the right way and treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. So don't think of it as such like a separational thing. Think of it as you're letting them go, let God and the universe do whatever they need to do with that person in your relationship. And when you clear that space, you're opening it up for something even better to fill that space. So
awesome. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's like the end of the questions that we got from people. So we appreciate you guys writing those in, and we hope that you found some clarity. I have some quick fire outro questions for you.
Let me hear them.
Okay. So, per usual, guys, we're doing... Oh, I guess I should be talking to you, Devin. Per usual, Devin.
Yes.
Anybody that I interview on here, I ask them the same 5 questions. And, yeah, you just tell me your experience with them all. So, first question. If you could give one piece of advice to my listeners who are on their journey to show up as boldly and unbreakably, what would it be?
Be uncomfortable. Make the uncomfortable decisions. Always. If you think it's going to benefit your life, just do it, because it will. And then you'll condition yourself to start making those uncomfortable decisions, and it's just going to become a habit. Like leaving a job for a job that you think is better, do it, right? Making a certain decision, do it. All those tough decisions are going to pay off in the long run, and they'll make all the other ones easier. And you'll realize that once you start doing that, your life is going to become ridiculously better. Be uncomfortable all the time. Love that. Okay. Question 2. When you are feeling your absolute best, what are you doing and who are you around? What does that look like for you? I'm with my fiance and my pup, my deaf dog Tyrion, and we're watching some stupid shit on TV with probably like some type of snack or something like that. Okay. It's wonderful. Love that. Pineapple on pizza? Question mark? Absolutely. Oh my gosh, same. Everyone that's come on here has basically said no. They suck, dude. I heard that's a key sign that you're toxic. Is when you don't like pineapple on pizza. Love it. Okay, and let's see. When did your life change for the better, or are you still waiting? Was there a pivotal moment in your life that changed it? The most pivotal moment in my life is when I decided to leave Georgia and move to Washington with my dad. Leave my mom, leave all my friends, leave the dumb shit I was doing, and make that decision. Because what happened is I gained the confidence of knowing how to do everything, take care of myself. I came back to Georgia with $50, and I was able to make it somehow. So that was the biggest thing I've ever done with my life. I thank my dad every time I talk to him on the phone for letting me do that. So sweet. Okay. He's a man. And last question, one thing you're grateful for right now. Life right now in general. I feel like I'm at that point in my life where just everything is coming together so well. And I'm just happy. I'm just content. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to be content, and I've made it. Yay. So that's so sweet. Yay. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Absolutely. Well, that is all that we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you guys have limited energy and time, and you guys are busy people, so we appreciate you listening in, and we really hope that you're able to take away some value from the show in this episode. If you learned anything, we love hearing these success stories, so send all of the good stuff over to @UnbreakablyBold on Instagram. That is where you can DM me, and be sure to go rate, review, subscribe. That is what keeps the show growing. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much for your time. We will catch you later. Thank you, Tina. Bye. Say bye. Bye.